6:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Mallavarachi, read by Soundi Tavam. The U.S. Treasury Chief says Sri Lanka's creditors should provide timely debt treatment. The UN Chief assures unwavering support towards Sri Lanka's economic recovery. India and Sri Lanka work on action plan for future cooperation. Parliament Select Committee is to obtain evidence from institutions on sunken ships Express Pearl and New Diamond. A special party leaders meeting is to be held on Tuesday. News overseas, Titan sub-victim's relative calls for investigation. And in sports, Sri Lanka climbed to the summit of Group B with strong position to qualify for the Super 6 stage. The U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, recently met with the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe on the sidelines of the summit for a new global financial pact. Yellen said she was pleased to see Sri Lanka receiving the approval for the IMF-supported program earlier this year and commended the strong domestic ownership of the island nation's reform agenda. During the meeting, she also highlighted the importance of Sri Lanka's creditors delivering on debt restructuring in a timely manner. Yellen also discussed the efforts to evolve the multilateral development banks to combat the 21st century global challenges. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has assured the UN's strong commitment to assisting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery and debt sustainability endeavours. During a bilateral meeting with President Ranil Wickremesinghe held on the sidelines of the summit for a new global pact recently, Secretary-General Guterres assured their strong commitment to assisting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery. Guterres also commended the progress made by Sri Lanka in achieving the country's sustainable development goals. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena held detailed discussions with Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle on the proposed roadmap for cooperation between the two countries. When the Indian High Commissioner called on the Prime Minister at Temple Trees on Wednesday, they examined the outlines of the proposed action plan on economic cooperation. High Commissioner Bagle, referring to the increase of tourism, said India would take steps to increase flights between the two countries. He said the public sector as well as private airlines are willing to operate flights to destinations in Sri Lanka. The Alliance Air wants to increase operations and extend current flights through South Indian destinations to Jaffna to Ratmalana Airport, as it has been opened for passenger flights. The Parliament Select Committee investigating matters relating to the damage caused by both MT New Diamond and Express Pearl vessels have decided to obtain evidence from the relevant institutions for a comprehensive investigation regarding the Express Pearl ship accident and taking legal action related to it. The Select Committee arrived at this decision when it met at the Parliament complex under the chairmanship of Minister Ramesh Patirana. Committee Chairman Ramesh Patirana said that the committee will discuss the disaster, institution of legal action, environmental damage caused by the accident, and the progress of the government mechanism. He also said that the committee will take recommendations necessary to prevent the recurrence of these types of tragedies in Sri Lankan territorial waters. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The sixth-day procession of the Asala festival of the historical Mahakataragama temple will parade the streets today. The annual week Pirit chanting ceremony of the Kirivahara Raja Mahavihara begins tonight. The final Mahaparahara of the Kataragama Asala festival will be held on the 3rd of July. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said the government decides to implement the future development projects based on a national planning procedure. A resolution in this regard has been submitted to the President. The bill is expected to be submitted to the Cabinet along with the suggestions and comments from the public. The bill proposal will be submitted to the Cabinet for approval. On approval, the bill will be tabled in Parliament for a formal approval. This process will help to achieve the 2048 Development Nation goal, the Minister added. The Lanka Private Bus Owners Association has attributed an increase in road accidents to weaknesses in the public transport sector. Its chairman, Gamana Vijayaratna, says that the use of smaller vehicles like motorcycles, three-wheelers, vans and cars as a major cause of frequent accidents. He added that not keeping up with developments in the public transport sector has also contributed to the problem. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
A special party leaders meeting is to be held on Tuesday, June 27th to decide on holding a special weekend session of Parliament on Saturday, July 1st and Sunday, July 2nd to get Parliament's approval for the domestic debt restructuring process, a spokesman from the Speaker's office said. Quote, the party leaders will meet on June 27th and the final decision on holding a special weekend session will be decided on that day, unquote, the spokesman said. The Speaker has also stressed the importance of holding a party leaders meeting next week and came to in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight. The water supply for parts of Colombo will be suspended for 16 hours today, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board says. Accordingly, Colombo 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 will be affected by the water cut imposed from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. The government has declared a special bank holiday on the 30th of June. This was announced in a special Gazette notification issued by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news in headlines. Titan sub-victim's relative calls for investigation. Pakistan says at least 350 Pakistanis were on board the trawler that capsized off Greece recently. Thai cave rescue official hailed as hero of cave rescue dies. The cousin and the goddaughter of British billionaire Hamish Harding has called for a full investigation into the deaths of the 5 Titan submersible passengers. Along with Mr. Harding, who would have turned 59 today, were Shaznada Dawood, 48, and his son Sulaiman Dawood, 19, Paul Henry Najlat, 77, and Stockton Rush, 61. Following the catastrophic implosion, the safety of the sub is being questioned. Emails seen by the BBC show that concerns from an expert over the safety of the Titan sub were dismissed by CEO Rush. At least 350 Pakistanis were on board a packed trawler that capsized off southern Greece on the 14th of June. Pakistan's Interior Minister says Rana Sadudullah told Parliament his estimate was based on families who had sought government help and had taken DNA tests. Egyptians and Syrians were also among the hundreds of migrants feared death. The official death toll remains at 82, while 104 survived, including 12 Pakistanis. A Thai official who oversaw the dramatic rescue of 12 boys on their football coach from a flooded cave in 2018 has died of cancer. Naransak Osetanakon died on Wednesday in a week that marks the 5th anniversary of the cave rescue. He was 58. He is beloved in Thailand as the wild boar governor, named after the football team he helped save. Mr. Naransak is survived by his wife and 2 daughters. Back to the headlines of the world news. Titan sub-victim's relative calls for investigation. Pakistan says at least 350 Pakistanis were on board the trawler that capsized off Greece recently. Thai cave rescue official hailed hero of cave rescue dies. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Desha Sri Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500.
The Secretary of the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing, W.S. Satyananda, says that the authorities hopes to complete all the works of the projects which are currently stopped in the middle of construction work within a year. He said the Urban Development and Housing Authority is currently discussing with the Finance Ministry officials regarding the resumption of the suspended projects. Participating at a discussion held recently in Batramulla with the contractors, the Secretary instructed them to submit a project report containing suggestions and comments regarding the resumption of the projects within a week. That came to you in Development News. On to Sports News next.
Vacancies for women from Deshakti Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salaries starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500.
On to sports news, Sri Lanka brushed off Oman in their Group B encounter at the Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo by registering a thumping 10-wicket victory yesterday. The result meant that they climbed to the summit of Group B and put themselves in a strong position to qualify for the Super 6 stage of the tournament. Sri Lanka will meet Ireland tomorrow. Sri Lanka has named a 15-member women's squad for the home ODI series against New Zealand starting this month. Chamari Atapattu continues to lead the side, which consists of players who featured in the series against Bangladesh in May, though 6 players from that 21-member squad were shed for this series. That's sports news. Business news up next.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Sri Lanka has sold 27.5 billion worth of treasury bills after the June 21, 2023 auction in a Phase 2 offer. In the original auction, the debt office sold all offered 110 billion rupees of treasury bills. In the original auction, the debt office accepted 59.9 billion rupees in 3-month bills at 25.65%, fell by 1 basis points from a week earlier after offering 75 billion rupees. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, Trade Minister Nalin Fernandez said Sri Lanka's food inflation will ease to a single digit next month as appreciation of the rupee, improved local food supply with chemical fertilizer application and base effect have helped to ease the inflation. The year-on-year food inflation has eased to 15.8% in May from 27.1% in the previous month, as measured by the National Consumer Price Index, the data showed last Wednesday. That's economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and the Matara districts. A few showers may occur in the northwestern province. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batiklo districts during the evening or night. Fairly strong winds, about 40 to 45 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills, North Central Province, and in the Puttalam, Hambantota and Trincomalee districts. This weather report was published this morning. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The U.S. Treasury Chief says Sri Lanka's creditors should provide timely debt treatment. The UN Chief assures unwavering support towards Sri Lanka's economic recovery. India and Sri Lanka work on action plan for future cooperation. The Parliament select committees to obtain evidence from institutions on sunken ships, Express Pearl and New Diamond. A special party leaders meeting is to be held on Tuesday. Titan sub-victim's relative calls for investigation. And Sri Lanka climbed to the summit of Group B with strong position to qualify for the Super 6 stage. That concludes this morning's news broadcast.